a video on Twitter of Glenn Beck. So you remember Glenn Beck. He is, let's turn on our monitor here. Glenn Beck is the former Fox News contributor who went off and started his own network called The Blaze, which ever since he left, it's just sort of been on life support. If it wasn't for Republican mega donors funding him, Republican billionaires funding him and giving him money in order to keep his network afloat, it would have gone away a long time ago. Glenn Beck's thing is that he would get the conspiracy chalkboard up and write a bunch of crap down that had nothing to do with anything else and draw little lines around it and circles and things, kind of like some insane conspiracy theory madman. And then he would cry. He would cry every show. He would start crying and saying, "Oh, our country is going down," and all this other crap, blah blah blah. It's the liberals and immigrants and whatever. And he would say a bunch of shit and cry, and that was his entire shtick. He's still doing it. So this is from our esteemed sort of Elon Musk ball licker named Cat Turd. I'm sure you guys, if you've heard of Cat Turd on Twitter, he is one of the main huge Twitter conservative voices now that got Elon Musk to just sort of like start fucking retweeting him and stuff like that. And that's what made him sort of famous. Now he has like fucking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers now because Elon Musk started fucking paying attention to this guy. And Cat Turd is, of course, a giant piece of shit who posts conspiracy theories and crap like that, and racist, all this other shit. Cat Turd's a fucking dumb shit. We should do a stream on him one of these days. He's a piece of trash. Everyone should listen to this because it's how we all feel right now. I've personally not watched Glenn Beck in a very long time. Let's make this smaller though, so that we don't get our stream kicked. But I want to kind of go over, because I watched the first 30 seconds of this and it's crazy. So I kind of want to watch a little bit of this here. And let's see how Glenn Beck has been doing. This is, damn, he's old now. He looks like Colonel Sanders, doesn't he? Look at Glenn Beck. He looks like he should be selling like the Colonel's secret chicken with the secret 5 spices or whatever, and a KFC famous bowl. But let's see Glenn Beck, because this is how all the conservatives are feeling right now. I wanna learn what the conservatives are feeling. Let's see what he's got to say.
I think I just have to say it like this. I don't know about you, but I'm tired. I am worn out. I am fed up. I've had enough.
Of what?
I am tired of exposing corruption, doing our homework, going overseas and having documents translated to make sure they're exactly right, presenting the evidence. We know what's happening, except then once we expose it, nothing happens.
One thing that I think the conspiracy theorists never understand, they never get, is that, like, you ever notice that Glenn Beck is right here? None of the people who are supposedly the perpetrators of all of these crimes, right? The perpetrators in these conspiracy theories ever get held accountable for anything. Why is that? Now, if you're a conspiracy theorist, the answer to that is because the rich and powerful run everything, and they're all part of the conspiracy, and that's why they never go to jail, because they're all in on it, and the world is run by a cabal of baby brain juice drinking space lizards who all happen to be Jewish. Right? That's why. But in real life, it's because it's all made up bullshit. It's because the shit you guys are saying is not true. The evidence you have is not really evidence. You don't actually have any evidence. If you had evidence of wrongdoing by the rich and powerful and politicians, then those people would go to jail. Now, here's the thing. Rich and powerful politicians and CEOs and stuff like that don't go to jail for normal shit that you and I go to jail for stealing from their own companies, for money laundering, for stuff like that. They never go to for financial crimes. They never get held accountable for financial crimes. They don't. But that's not the kind of thing that Glenn Beck and his ilk are accusing people like Bill Gates of. Like Bill Gates or Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or anybody, George Soros, right? Those are not the kind of thing. They're not accusing them of financial crimes. Okay. They're accusing them of things like murder, of kidnapping children, of drinking their brain juice, of shit like that. Those are the kinds of things that they're being accused of. It's got nothing to do with the actual crimes that any of those people may have committed. No. It's because conspiracy theorists, the thing you got to remember, conspiracy theorists are not interested in the actual truth. They're not. Hillary Clinton may have engaged in unethical behavior with the Clinton Foundation, for example, taking money from special interest groups and then basically accepting bribes and parlaying that into policy decisions. Just the exact same fucking thing that we accuse, that we have proof that Clarence Thomas was doing. Hillary Clinton may be guilty of doing that, but that's not what Glenn Beck and Cat Turd have a beef with Hillary Clinton Clinton for. They want her to go to jail for supposedly kidnapping a child and cutting their face off and then doing a satanic ritual with it and then drinking their fucking adrenochrome. That's what they want him to go to jail for. See what I'm saying? And it's because conspiracy theorists aren't interested in the truth. The actual crimes are too boring. They're not sexy enough. If it doesn't sound like it would make a good plot to a movie, then they're not interested. That's the thing we got to remember. Glenn Beck and his ilk, these people are delusional. And that's really another downturn when it comes to conspiracy theorists, is that it allows for actual real crimes for people to actually get away with real crimes. With things like financial crimes, with things like corruption, government corruption, stuff like that. It allows politicians and CEOs and the rich and the powerful to get away with shit like that because these people are too focused on idiotic fantasy shit that has no basis in fucking reality. Moving on.
Nobody goes to jail. Nobody pays for a damn thing anymore. Nothing. If you and I did half the things that people in Washington do every day, you and I would go to prison. Clinton got away with it. Even the left knew that the Clinton Foundation was dirty. They sold uranium to our biggest enemy, Russia. Nothing. No. She can take confidential, top secret emails and put them on her server at her home. Something you and I would go to prison for.
Okay. So you see what happened here? Now, this is something I want to point out, too. Glenn Beck sounds very populist right here, doesn't it? What did he start off with? He started off with something true, right? They knew the Clinton Foundation is dirty. Yes, it is dirty. Politicians should not have foundations in the first place. When they get voted into office, they should be required to shut that stuff down. And here's the thing, even if it was all 100% above board, right, and it was all totally cool and there was no pay for play, whatever, they should still have to shut it down because you don't want to have even the appearance of impropriety like that. That's what we should require. So, but just to kind of get back on the subject, he starts with something that's actually true. Yes, Clinton Foundation was dirty. Then he moves to total fucking horseshit. Hillary sells uranium to Russia. That's bullshit. That didn't happen. That's a dumb shit conspiracy theory. Right? Absolute bullshit conspiracy theory with no fucking basis in reality. Then he moves on to Hillary's fucking stupid emails. You remember that crap? The Hillary's fucking dumbass email thing, the butter emails. That they're still talking about this shit. right? This video is from this year. Okay? Like when did the buttery males thing happen? What? 2012? That's like a 10-year-old fucking conspiracy theory at this point. Still talking about that shit. You know what the whole thing with the Clinton's private email server is, right? The long and the short of it is that she had her own private server, and there were emails that were sent to or from that server that had to do with government business, right? And at the time, and even now, that's not illegal. Okay, it's not illegal. And what ended up happening, the whole thing where they said there were 33,000 emails that got lost. Yeah, you know why? Because it's her own private email server. And when they said that there were top secret information on some of those emails, yes, there was. Because there were things that she was doing official government business with it. Some of the emails she sent had top secret information. Some of that was declared top secret after she sent it. And this is what the 11 billion investigations into her email servers have found, is that she did not mishandle any top secret information. There were things that were declared top secret after she sent it that she was not guilty. So no, she was not guilty of purposely hiding top secret crap on her email server and then scrubbing it or whatever. She's not guilty of that at all. No. A server is just a computer. Shit gets deleted all the time, right? What's the reason why you don't want to have that, right? The reason is because if you do have government, like a server that uses government, like official government functions for, then yes, there may be sensitive information in there. And the reason why you're not supposed to have your own private server to handle emails and stuff is because it's a security leak. It's because the Russians or the North Koreans or whoever could fucking hack her server, get her hands on sensitive information. That's why you don't want to do that. You know who also used their own private server? Donald Trump. You know who also used their own phones, their unsecured phones, for official government business? Donald Trump. Ivanka Trump. Jared Kushner. So no, it's a problem that and you know why? Because there's not sufficient regulations. The regulations that are out there now are not sufficient in order to stop this. We need to pass laws saying no, you're not allowed to use your own shit. Right? That law didn't exist back then. It was like, oh, well, this is wrong. And then it became this giant fucking scandal. But why did she not go to prison for this scandal or anything like that? Because the law, she didn't break the law that was already there. But you notice it doesn't have to be true. See, that's the thing about conspiracy theories. It doesn't have to be true. They just repeat it over and over anyway, because the whole point of conspiracy theories is how something makes you feel. Right? It has absolutely nothing to do with the truth. Conspiracy theories have nothing to do with what's right or wrong. They have nothing to do with anything like that whatsoever. Nothing to do with actual reality and what actually happened. And everything to do with, does this align with me and what I think politically? Does it make me feel good? Does it make my audience feel good? Will it encourage my audience to keep tuning in? Because that's all this conspiracy shit is it's just entertainment. It's just more outrage, posting outrage clicking in order to get people tuning in. Moving on. He still isn't finished with his accusations here. Let's continue.
We would be in prison for the rest of our lives. Not a big deal. Benghazi? No. Not only did we show you that we were gun running to a group in Syria that became ISIS, that's what we were doing in Benghazi. Not only that, but just the killing of a U.S. ambassador, and, might I point out on Veterans Day, we abandon our troops. Did anything happen? Nope. Nope. Mm-mm.
How many hearings have we had about Benghazi? How many? 1, 2, 3, 15, 20, 40. I remember there being a thing where Hillary Clinton went up for 8 hours and answered questions from Congress about Benghazi. They've spent so much money on fucking Benghazi. Benghazi is the conspiracy theory that refuses to die, right? They've investigated it over and over and over again, and they found nothing. They found nothing. Okay, the gun running thing to a group in Syria who became ISIS. Guess what? They were supplying all kinds of people with fucking weapons back then, right? You know why? Because the official policy of the United States government wasn't to fight terrorism, it was to get rid of Assad. And so what they were doing is they were supporting different factions who were fighting against Assad, and then some of those factions switched sides and joined up with ISIS. And that's what the conspiracy that we were supplying guns to ISIS came from. Yes, the U.S. ambassador and troops and stuff like that, that shit happened, right? Who was responsible for that? Was Hillary Clinton responsible? Seems like we've had plenty of investigations that have said no, she isn't responsible for that. Okay, am I saying that nothing happened during Benghazi, that people shouldn't have gone to jail, whatever? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that Glenn Beck is completely full of shit, trying to blame Hillary Clinton for that. Our government has spent literally millions and millions of dollars specifically investigating Hillary Clinton, trying to dig up dirt on her and throw her in jail for Benghazi, and have been unable to do so. It's been a pet project of the Republicans for fucking literally a decade. More than a decade at this fucking point. They're still talking about this shit. That's the thing. When did Benghazi happen again? Like, what, 2009 or whatever? They're still talking about this shit. Like, that's the thing about conspiracy theories, folks. They don't have to be true. You just have to repeat them over and over and over and over.
Nothing. Nothing. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of actually being open and saying, okay, well, let's look into the spying on this presidential candidate. That's a pretty hefty charge. Were they doing it? And then finding out, yes, they were, and nothing happens.
They were not doing it. Spying on the Trump campaign was not a thing that was happening, right? Now, what was happening is that there were investigations of people within the Trump campaign because it just so happened that so many of them just had contacts with Russian nationals, right? And that's where that led to like the Russiagate thing, where people actually went to fucking jail for various crimes. You know, the thing is, when you're a politician, you work for the United States government, if you have an interest with a foreign country, you're supposed to declare that. You're supposed to say, hey, I worked for this country doing this. I worked for Turkey doing that. I have taken money from this Russian person for this job or that job. And it just seemed that more than one person, multiple people in the Trump campaign just had these types of contacts with various Russian nationals, with Russian oligarchs, accepting money for various things and not declaring those things. That's what the whole Russiagate really was. It was about people within the Trump campaign and later the Trump administration with contacts with Russian nationals, possibly accepting money from them, doing jobs for them and not declaring it. And then is it just a giant coincidence that Putin shows up and like meets with Trump in the Oval Office and we don't have a record of what they said? They took the notes from the translator and tore it up or whatever. Is that a giant coincidence? As soon as Trump leaves office, Putin decides to invade fucking the Ukraine, start a fucking war. I mean, don't you think he was kind of betting on Trump being in office before he started that war? That war would be over now if Trump was president. We would not be supporting the Ukrainians at all. That war would be over. Russia would now be in possession of Ukraine right now. That's what would have happened, right? Elections have consequences, folks. It matters who's in charge, right? But anyway, getting back to the subject on hand here. I kind of went off on a tangent there, right? The spying on the Trump campaign, the conspiracy theory is that the Obama people were using the FBI to spy on Trump or whatever, and then taking that information and handing it over to the Hillary campaign or whatever. That's complete, total, 100% grade A bullshit. There's zero actual evidence of that, zero proof of that whatsoever. And even if they were doing it, here's the other thing. Did it work? No, she fucking lost. Right? So they weren't doing it to fucking begin with. I mean, if they were, their spying campaign was a giant fucking failure, wasn't it? It's bullshit. He's still talking about that crap, right? I mean, 2016 was what, 7 years ago now? Still fucking talking about this dipshit conspiracy theory with zero fucking basis in fucking reality. And this son of a bitch is on the air screaming at people, parlaying this shit into fucking anger clicks so that he can make money.
He was colluding with Russia. My gosh! That should be the biggest scandal of all time if that were true. If it wasn't true, and it was started, and evidence, paperwork even showed that they knew, all the way to the White House, you'd think that would be even a bigger story. Lying to the FISA courts, nothing. Creating an enemies list, nothing.
So, what did he just say? Now, he just said here, colluding with Russia. All right. And then that would be a giant fucking thing. So, let's see. Out of the Russiagate investigation, we had Paul Manafort, who was sentenced to 7.5 years. Konstantin Klimlik, he was charged with obstruction of justice. Roger Stone was convicted of lying to Congress for that. Remember, Roger Stone got pardoned. His ass should be in jail right now. He lied to Congress, tampering with a witness and obstructing a congressional investigation into the Russian interference in the 2016 election, right? He was convicted of that. He faced 20 years up to in prison for that, right? He should be in prison right now for that shit. Donald Trump pardoned his ass. Okay. Michael Flynn pleaded guilty to investigators. He got a pardon. Rick Gates pleaded guilty to lying to investigators. Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to tax and bank charges, campaign finance. That came out of the Russiagate thing. That's how they found out about that. That thing that Donald Trump got arrested for. The paying off a porn star and all that shit. That came out of fucking Russiagate, right? George Papadopoulos went to prison for lying to investigators. Of course, he only served fucking 2 weeks in prison, but still, that counts. Alex Vanderswan went to prison for lying to investigators, right? Another guy, Sam Patton, pleaded guilty to failing to register as a foreign lobbyist. He was, I think, working as a lobbyist for Turkey. Oh, actually, no. He was working as a lobbyist for Ukrainian clients. So he was a lobbyist for Ukraine. Lied to investigators for that. Gregory Craig acquitted on charges of lying to authorities. So that guy didn't, go to jail for that. Another guy named Bijan Kian and Skin Alpatikian, charged with conspiring to violate lobbying laws. So no, the Russiagate was not a big giant nothing burger. People went to jail for that, right? Bad shit was happening. Laws were being broken there. Glenn Beck is twisting that around. Oh, if there was something there, it would be the giant fucking scandal. It was a giant fucking scandal. It was. Think back to 2017, 2018, while that shit was it was on The news 24/7. This huge giant investigation. It wasn't a giant fucking nothing burger. No. All those people went to fucking jail. I just described. I just laid it all out for you right there. This motherfucker's lying to you, folks. Moving on.
Using our own intelligence agencies to assist in this operation, spending millions of dollars on a claim they knew that wasn't true. The collusion on Russia, they knew it before the president was ever elected.
Yeah, that's a lie. That's what the conspiracy theory says, that it was all just the government trying to get Trump. No. History, the actual facts play that out. Glenn Beck is lying right now. Moving on.
The scandal, the loss of billions of tax dollars in Ukraine, no big deal. The lies and the collusion with the Obama administration in Ukraine, no big deal. Hunter Biden, forget about Burisma. What was that, $7 billion? Ha! Who cares? Look at Hunter Biden and his father in China. Oh, but we don't have any proof of that. Yes, we do. We have all the proof anyone who cares to be honest needs. We have all the documents on his own frickin' laptop, which have been verified for people that were working with him, who were Democrats that had those same emails on their computer.
All right. So, a lot to unpack there. First off, we have Hunter Biden's stupid fucking laptop, which these people will not shut up about, right? Why is anything on that laptop not considered a smoking gun? Why is that? Because the custody of the laptop cannot be verified, right? Here's the story. We've talked about this before, Hunter Biden's stupid fucking laptop, but let's talk about it again. Okay. Here's why nothing on that laptop can be considered evidence, right? Here's what happened. Hunter Biden supposedly goes into a laptop repair shop, drops off this laptop, right? Even though the guy that works there is legally blind, and even though he he doesn't live in that city. For some reason, he goes to a completely different city in order to drop off a laptop for some reason, instead of going to a place next to where he lives or whatever, right? Drops off a laptop, never picks it up. And so the guy, what happens if you do that? You have to make a certain amount of an honest effort to get in touch with whoever it belongs to, but eventually, if no one's going to come pick it up, the place takes it. Belongs to them now, right? That's what this guy did. Instead of just wiping the hard drive and reselling the laptop, which he's supposed to do, the guy that runs this computer repair shop decided to check it out and supposedly saw all this bad stuff on it. CP and that kind of thing. Oh, this is all bad. Oh. And oh wait, it's the fucking vice president's son. So instead of taking the laptop and going to the police with it, if it actually has illegal content on it, like he should have done, what did he do? He instead calls the Republican Party, sends it off to the Republicans, doesn't send it to the police, doesn't send it to the FBI, sends it to the fucking GOP with it. And the trail of the laptop, it goes through all of these different hands. And here's the thing, if it's actually true, if the laptop really is Hunter Biden's laptop and isn't a plant by fucking Russian intelligence, which is what all of the intelligence agencies are saying it is. The FBI, the CIA, all that, they have all said that, hey, this bears the earmarks of a plant, of a Russian intelligence plant. Basically, Russian intelligence got all this information, put it on a laptop, and that's how they That's how they did it, right? And remember, this came out a month before. Like this all came out a month before the election. It was the October surprise. Was Hunter Biden's laptop? Ooh, right. That was the big fucking because every election there's always a huge surprise in October, which swings it one way or the other or something. That was the October surprise for the 2020 election was Hunter Biden's stupid fucking laptop, right? The thing about that is that, well, we can't prove who had it because it went through so many different hands that even if it really was his laptop, there was so many opportunities for people to alter that data that's on the actual hard drives, to add data or to delete data or to put doctored photos, maybe things like that, right? To put fake emails, to put all kinds of crap on there that may or may not be real, may or may not be true. But Glenn Beck is saying, oh, we know these emails are true because we have other politicians that have the same emails, right? That's only true for a small amount of them. There's other ones that are on that laptop which are nowhere else. They just so happen to be the incriminating ones, supposedly. The ones having to do with Burisma and stuff like that, right? You know what actually really happened with Burisma? This is the real story with Burisma, all right? There was, if I can remember this right, basically Burisma is a Ukrainian power company, right? And they got in trouble for corruption, essentially. You know what? I've got this story here. I got it written down. Let me see if I can find it. Give me 1 second here. I got it down. I'm just going to open up my thing here. Let me go to my thing there. Give me 2 seconds. Go to saved. Right. Saved comments. And let's see. Okay, this is what's going on with Burisma, right? So Burisma was under investigation for corruption, right? But that was during the Yakonovich regime, and that was the pro-Putin guy that is now linked to Russian separatists, right? That was when Burisma was accused of corruption, right? So after they call it the Euromaidan Revolution, where that guy Yakonovich was basically ousted, right? Burisma wanted to show that they'd clean up their act, so they hired a bunch of outsiders for their board of directors. And they wanted basically internationally reputable people with no link to anything in Ukraine. So that was the whole point of hiring somebody like Hunter Biden. So that was the reason why Hunter Biden got a job with Ukraine in the first into with Burisma in the first place, right? Was because he didn't have any connection to anything in Ukraine, and it happened after Burisma was under investigation for corruption, right? Because he didn't have any links to the people to the corruption. That's the reason why, you know. But the Republicans are bending this shit around and trying to make it sound like he was somehow using his influence with his father to get a job or some shit like that, or that it was somehow, and they're trying to bend that around and now saying that, now they're trying to say that, oh, this is the whole reason why we're supporting the Ukrainians against the Russians in this war and all that other crap. And it has no fucking basis in reality. It's complete bullshit, right? It's unbelievable how fucking ridiculous that shit is, right? Moving on.
Nothing. The scandal of our Justice Department, the deep state, which I didn't believe in 4 years ago. My gosh, you've got to be dead and probably voting in the last election if you don't see the deep state. The corruption of our media.
There is such a thing as the deep state, folks, but it's not what he's describing right here. The way Glenn Beck is using the term deep state right now is synonymous with cabal, with the Illuminati, right? It's basically an anti-Semitic whistle word. That's how he's using deep state right now. It's basically saying, oh, the Jews are controlling everything. In real life, what the deep state is are bureaucrats that embedded bureaucrats that can continue policy objectives of a previous administration. That's what a deep state is. That's what basically the real life deep state is, right? You want an example of that? The guy that runs the Postmaster General right now is an example of deep state. What the hell is his name right now? Postmaster General, right? Louis DeJoy is the Postmaster General, right? Do you remember during the election, the 2020 election, Donald Trump wanted to get rid of mail-in voting because he thought it was going to make him lose the election. So he puts this guy Louis DeJoy in, and then Louis DeJoy went around and started ripping out all of the mail sorting machines so that the mail would go super slow, right? Specifically in order to stop mail-in ballots, because the idea was that, hey, if we can delay the ballots long enough, then they'll come in after the due date and then they won't count. And the idea was that, oh, well, because Democrats are voting by mail-in, because like more Democrats are like taking precautions for COVID and doing mail-in balloting versus in-person balloting. Do you remember that whole thing, right? That guy is still there. He's still the leader of the post office, right? He's the postmaster general because there's some kind of weird ass bureaucratic fucking reason why they can't get rid of his ass. So he's still in charge of the post office, right? That's an example of the deep state. It's a basically Republican operative that is there and enacting policies on behalf of a previous administration. That's what a real example of what the deep state is, not some kind of hidden shadowy cabal of like Jewish, of sleeper agents who are enacting the secret Jewish overlords policy in order to make us all eat bugs and like abort our babies or some shit.
Our media telling us to deny our own eyes. There's a car on fire, and they're like, oh, nothing's happening here. It's totally peaceful. There's a car on fire behind you, but we're not supposed to notice that. Good has been made evil, and evil is made good. They ask you now to don't believe your own eyes, believe us. Our country is being torn apart on the streets.
So you hear this rhetoric. It's like he uses this populist rhetoric. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Right. But then if you actually listen to the particulars of what he's saying, it's insane, right-wing, ridiculous bullshit. It's insane right-wing bullshit of the highest order. And this is why you have to like pay attention to these fucking people and the shit that they say. Here's the thing, people tune in to get that emotional validation from shit like this. That's the appeal of people like Glenn Beck. It's the emotional validation, right? Your uncles, your grandparents who are watching this fucking asshole. That's what they're tuning in for. They're tuning in because Glenn Beck is speaking to them and their frustrations. It's important to listen to what he's actually saying when you hear people saying this stuff. What is he actually mad about? A bunch of idiotic, untrue conspiracy theory bullshit. Anyway, continue. We're almost done here. We got about 1 minute left.
By radicals who are marching with no Trump, no Biden, no America signs. But don't worry about that. This is just a peaceful group. Really? Our children are being...
What's so wrong about that, by the way? What did you just say? They're watching with no Trump, no Biden, no America signs, right? What's so wrong with that? Like, first off, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Is he talking about like people who hate America, like no America signs? I don't really think that's even a thing, right? But what's wrong with that exactly? Those are people who are basically like getting disillusioned with the bullshit that they see every day. You know, we're living right now in a very hyper politicized era. Extremely hyper politicized, where everything becomes politicized. That's where we're living. You know, this is the culture war is in high gear now. That's what we're experiencing right now, right? What's wrong with people basically revolting against that? That's what that actually means. The United States is not the president. Your country is not who's in charge. Your country is your country. Your president is supposed to be a transitory figure. They're supposed to be in office for 4 or 8 years and then leave, and then somebody else gets to be in charge, chosen by the will of the people. That's what democracy is, right? That's what our country is founded on. That's what our country is all about. It's not supposed to be every fucking thing out there is a fight for the soul of the nation, down to the fucking beer commercials and M&Ms. That's trouble. Societies, you know, the United States is in trouble, and it's specifically in trouble because because right wingers are fucking exploiting that shit to make money. But that's a subject for another video here. Moving on.
Being indoctrinated with all kinds of crap, telling them that they're racist because of the color they were born with. The teachers' union's completely out of control.
Yeah, nobody ever does that, by the way. What he just said, telling children that they're racist just because they were born white or whatever. That's what he really meant to say, by the way. That is not a thing. Nobody ever out there ever is accusing any child and saying that you're automatically racist because you're white. No. No. What is actually happening is that we're trying to teach children the history, the real history of this country. The real history of this country is the history of racism. And people like Glenn Beck don't want to hear that, because they live in this weird, ridiculous fantasy world where the United States can do no wrong. And it's like, no, it is important to understand the history of this country and the real history. And that includes all of the violence, all of the bigotry, all of the hatred. It's important for children to know these things, to know that this stuff happened, to know that slavery was real and actually happened, to know that lynching was a thing that actually happened recently, within the lifetime of their grandparents, their parents and their grandparents, right? It's important for them to know that happened. It's important for them to know things about segregation and bigotry and institutional racism and how we overcome those things, right? Because if you don't teach them about this shit, it'll come back. And I mean, that seems to be the motive that people like Glenn Beck have. If not him himself, at least the people who watch, the type of people who watch Glenn Beck, that seems to be the motive they have, is they want to fucking, seems like they want to bring us back to those great old days, those good old days, doesn't it? So, moving on.
The lies of Black Lives Matter, Inc., and no one seems to care. No one seems to care that Black Lives Matter is actually a corporation. That Black Lives Matter, on their own manifesto, said they wanted to destroy the nuclear family. But that...
More stupid fucking bullshit. Black Lives Matter is not... See, when they say it's incorporated, right? Is it incorporated? I don't actually know. But if it was, what does that mean? That means it's a corporation. All a corporation is a way of shielding liability. for the people that run it. So if you wanted to sue, let's say that there was a rally organized by Black Lives Matter that turns into a riot, and that there's like violence, which has happened, right? Let's say that happened. All that means is that if you try to sue, then you have to sue Black Lives Matter. You can't sue the actual people that organized the rally. That's all it means, right? If they are incorporated. I don't even know if Black Lives Matter actually is incorporated. Is it? I don't know. But that's all it would actually mean. It doesn't mean that they're a corporation in the, people use the word corporation like it's a dirty word sometimes, right? Oh, it's just corporate power, blah, 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 blah. Like, somehow Black Lives Matter has the same power and influence as like Disney or Starbucks or DuPont or Goldman Sachs or some shit. You know, that's what he's trying to make it sound like. He's trying to make it sound like they're this like, oh, all corporations are up to no good, and Black Lives Matter is a corporation, and obviously they're, using, it's just all a scam to take your money and blah 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 blah, right? That's what he's trying to make it sound like. It's like, the fuck out of here. Stupidest fucking thing. The other thing, it's like, oh, they want to destroy the nuclear family, right? Maybe the fucking nuclear family should be destroyed, if you ask me. Like, the main reason I say that is because the nuclear family is not the only type of family that deserves respect. There are all kinds of other types of family. There's mixed families, there's multi-generational families, but the reason why Glenn Beck is saying this, of course, is because he wants to have the ability to dictate to the rest of us of what kind of family structure is and isn't acceptable. In particular, he wants to get rid of any families that have same-sex couples. That's what that really is about. So when you hear them talking about they want to destroy the nuclear family, what they're really talking about is gay marriage, and they're opposed to gay marriage. But he can't just straight out say, hey, I want to ban gay people from getting married without sounding like a giant fucking bigot. So he's using these whistle words. He's using these coded fucking weasel words and, dog whistles, excuse me. I always say whistle words instead of dog whistles. That's what it should be. He's using these fucking like coded dog whistles and shit, instead of just straight out saying, hey, his opposition to gay marriage or whatever, right? Because he's a scuzzy piece of shit, and we should never forget that. Almost done, folks.
That's all fine. Antifa? No. They're not wild in the streets. That's only an idea. Yeah, kind of like Nazism was an idea.
Yep, folks. Antifa is the exact same thing as Nazism. Uh-huh. There hasn't been a like the Black Lives Matter movement hasn't been a thing for what, 3 years now? When did Black Lives Matter, like, it was really heavy in 2020, right? It's kind of calmed down now. And, I mean, yeah, it was pretty bad for a little while. There were a lot of protests and a lot of violence. In no small part, by the way, from right-wing protesters and cops going out and fucking attacking people, right? I mean, I remember those videos of fucking cops going around popping people's tires, of, Proud Boys and shit going out and brawling with people in the streets. I remember that crap. So, you know, don't tell me this shit that it's like, oh, Black Lives Matter, they're all a bunch of violent psychopaths. When it's like, no. A lot of that violence came from the opposition as well. I mean, I'm not going to say that there was no rioting and there was no violence, because there was. There were plenty of people out there who basically use protests like this as an opportunity to go basically fuck shit up. and loot, and that's exactly true, right? That happened all over in various cities. There's even places, in San Francisco, for example, where a bunch of kids would get together, break into a convenience store, and steal all their beer, and then that would get blamed on BLM, or that would happen in New York too. Like I remember seeing a video of basically an art gallery where a bunch of people broke in and stole a bunch of shit, and then that got blamed on Black Lives Matter, right? Stuff like that when it had absolutely nothing fucking to do with it whatsoever. But even but I am still capitulating and admitting that yes, there were specifically Black Lives Matter protests that turned violent. That is a thing that happened, right? But still, even then, it's like the vast majority of them were peaceful, right? And it's not even a thing that even happens anymore. Like, but they're still talking about it. It's sort of like I really do think Black Lives Matter really, really traumatized the right wing. And that people like Glenn Beck and his ilk and his viewers specifically really got the shit scared out of them by Black Lives Matter, right? And it kind of shows that, like, it shows that, hey, folks, if you fucking stand up, if you get out there in the streets and fight for the crap you believe in, then the right wing in this country capitulates and surrenders like a bunch of little fucking cowards, because that's what they are. That's what they fucking are. They're a bunch of fucking cowards who can't actually handle it when people stand up to their bullshit. If you don't like, that's all it takes. That's really like fighting back. I know. You know what? I know I make it sound hopeless and shit. More than once in this stream tonight, I've said that it's not going to change. Blah 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 blah. I've said that more than once tonight, right? But what does it actually take to get change? It's not that hard. It really isn't that hard. It takes people being active, whether that's and active in more ways than one. It takes voting, it takes protesting, it takes making choices in your life that align with your agenda and being proactive, right? One of those ways that you can be proactive is that when shit happens, when shit hits the fan, get out there, make your fucking voice known. Because, yeah, I mean, you won't save the world by standing around holding a sign. But what protesting actually does do is that it gets your cause in the news cycle. That's what protesting actually does, right? It gets people talking about it. It doesn't actually change laws. If you want to actually change laws, you need to vote. That's what actually does the actual change, right? But protesting and, being part of a movement like that what does it do? It gets your agenda on the table to where politicians will start listening to you, right? Laws will start getting passed if you start demanding it, that kind of thing. So that's what protesting is good for, right? Spreading the word, changing hearts and minds, stuff like that. And that's why it's really bad when a protest goes wrong and turns violent, because you turn people off. Violence has a way of, political violence specifically has a way of backfiring in this country, right? And if the general public sees you as the villain, they're going to support your opposition, whether they personally believe in your cause or not. That's what'll happen, right? If they see you out in the street smashing up windows and popping the tires on cars and shit, they're going to turn around and they're going to support the conservatives because they're going to say, well, I can't be a part of this violent mob over here, right? That's why, for example, the Charlottesville thing was so devastating to the white supremacist movement, because because everybody got to see what they really are in real life. They got to see these insane fucking white supremacist assholes running around threatening people, right? Assaulting people, running people over, shit like that. And it basically fucking destroyed organized white supremacy in this country for years afterwards, right? You know. Anyway, 30 seconds left.
But yet, if you support the Constitution, if you just say, I want a fair and legal count, you're a radical. You're an anti-government zealot. I've had it.
Are you fucking kidding me? I didn't know. I didn't know that Glenn Beck was an election denier. A fair and legal count. I'm assuming he's talking about the 2020 election. I didn't know he was an election denier. Maybe I should watch more Glenn Beck, right? If there's one thing that we can confidently say about that election is that there was a fair and legal count. Okay. There was recount after recount after recount during that election, right? It's there is no evidence of illegal, the type of the conspiracy theories that the right wing has about illegal voting, the busloads of immigrants and stuff like that. There's zero evidence for that shit. Okay? If there were evidence, there were plenty of the Trump people had plenty of opportunity to present that evidence. They never did. You know, what is it? More than 60 court cases that they brought up had no evidence whatsoever. Same thing with Kerry Lake. Same thing with Herschel Walker. Same thing with fucking Mehmet Oz and all the other high-profile Republican losers in the last couple years, right? It's funny how suddenly, when Republicans start losing elections, suddenly we have a giant problem with voter fraud in this country, right, folks? They were perfectly fucking happy with the voting system when they were winning elections. 20 years ago, when Bush and shit and his friends were fucking like winning elections, they were perfectly fucking fine with the fucked up election cycles that we have in this country. But now the fact that they can't fucking seem to win anything, suddenly we have a giant problem with illegal voting and stuff. Funny how that shit works out, right? Such fucking bullshit.
I've had enough. I almost didn't make the show last week because
Okay.
this is what I wanted to say to you. Except it would have been followed with, so see you later.
All right. Well, that was hilarious and cringy and horrifying. Let's turn that shit off. Glenn Beck is still a hoot. You notice he was just about to break down in tears right there. Looks like his act hasn't changed. Right? There we go. This is actually looking pretty good, I think, right? I think we need to put a background on it now, which is why I'm getting rid of the white there. Glenn Beck is still doing the exact same shit. No doubt after this he broke down crying, sobbing like a little baby, because that's how he ended. That's how he used to end all of his segments, crying like a baby about how the world is going to shit or whatever. Very, very fucking pathetic, man. And see, there you go, folks. But what Glenn Beck does really well is cloak his rhetoric, cloak his conspiracy theories in populist rhetoric, right? And if you didn't know what any of those the truth behind any of those conspiracy theories that he's mentioning, if you didn't actually know any of that, you might fall for it. And that's what you should remember, folks, right? Is that to people like you and me who are into this stuff, it sounds ridiculous and childish and it's obvious bullshit, the things he's saying. BLM is a corporation, the fucking Hunter Biden's laptop and Benghazi and all that other crap, right? But most people out there are they don't follow politics. Most people do not, right? And most people are just have a casual interest in the news are vulnerable to this kind of misinformation, because that's what it is. It's misinformation that he's, you know, all of the things that he's just saying during that 5 minute little triade, whatever, 5 minute little fucking crybaby rant that he just went through are demonstrably untrue, right? But you wouldn't know that if you were just a casual consumer of news. Go on the street and ask the average person what Benghazi is. I bet you they have no fucking idea what it is. But I also bet you they know it's something bad that Hillary Clinton did. That's the response you'll get. Go ask the average person about Hunter Biden's laptop. They probably have no clue what's on it, but they know it's bad. Right? That's what conspiracy theories do. That's the danger behind this kind of bullshit. Is it's a way of you know disseminating misinformation for political reasons, and that's why it's dangerous. And so if you have relatives that watch shit like this, talk to them. Talk to your parents, talk to your uncles, talk to your grandparents who are sitting there glued to fucking Fox News all day, who may be tuning into the Blaze and listening to this stuff. And, because the first line of defense is the truth, right? I mean, do you just give up on your friends and your family that are being basically hoodwinked by these delusions? I mean, no, I wouldn't give up. Do the best you can to, deprogram these people. Because the first thing you got to remember is your friends and your family, you know, they want you to respect them. They want you to like them, right? It won't. They won't listen to just some random fucking stranger on the internet like me, you know. But you know who they will listen to? They'll listen to you. If you go and you talk to them, you talk to your relatives who may be brainwashed by this idiot or other related idiots like Alex Jones or some shit, right? Who may be falling down that conspiracy theory rabbit hole and spreading misinformation on the internet about, anti-Semitic conspiracies and shit like that, right? If you have friends and family that are doing stuff like that, they may listen to you, right? And it doesn't have to be some kind of like come to Jesus intervention thing where you sit them down and like, we're concerned for you. It doesn't have to be like that at all. You know what it can be? You know what it can be? It can be you expressing a conflicting opinion in a way that's not pushy. And if they get pissed at you or whatever, you go, okay, and you don't push it. And it could be just you feeding them, maybe discussing in certain ways sometimes why you believe things like, civil rights matter, why something like Benghazi was not real, why the Hunter's stupid fucking laptop is bullshit. It can be as simple as that, as them getting an alternate source of information. And that's all it can take sometimes to lead people away from these fucking cults. That's basically what it fucking is. It's like conspiracy theory shit is like essentially it's like a religion at this point. Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.